The chapter that I have chosen for this video is medical terminology. We're just going to look at a few basics. I just want to say a few things. Please join in on my LinkedIn page. The information is on at the bottom of this video in the written description. Basically, you can see my sort of science journey, what I've been up to, some of my degree work, my dissertation as well. Secondly, if you want to comment on anything or suggest a topic that you're interested in but don't want to say it in the comment section, you can email me at pinkbiology20@gmail.com. Okay, so medical terminology comes from Greek and Latin. That's where it derives from, which is why the words don't seem to correlate with the actual organ they're talking about. So let's go on to the little bit of information I've provided here. So it's basically it's understanding medical terminology within literature and processes, illnesses and disease. I've actually decided to use this as my first video because I think when you're talking about anatomy or science or biology, you need to understand how the body anatomy is referred to in technical terms, because when you read science literature, when you look at videos or information or medical information, it will be written in those terms, and it's easier to understand it or understand the basics now and then not have to sort of write a meaning for every single other word you see. There is a trick way of understanding it, which I will show you. Okay, so let's go on to the slide. So basically, we have got here what it is. So it's a prefix, a root, and a suffix. Now, most of the English languages does actually break down anyway in this way. So basically, the information and the medical terminology is used as a paraphrase. So basically, they're creating a way of depicting each particular word, and by putting it together they can automatically see a sentence. So I'll give you an example. So bio is the root word, which is the main word, the topic, and then logi is actually means the study of. So when you come to reading medical terminology, you often have to read it backwards. So you would say here that the biology pertaining or means the study of life. So logi is the study, bio is life, so you're reading it backwards, study of life. Okay, so here I've used some more terminology, but also with the same suffix. And if you can see down the left side, the root words shows the types of organs or illnesses or conditions. So the first one is cardio, which means the heart. So when you put the suffix logi at the end of it, reading it backwards, you're basically saying in a brief description that it's a study of the heart. But it also means it's a lot broader than that. So it's a study of the treatment, the disorders, the blood vessels. But when you see that, you know that this is a study, so it's a science behind the heart. So anything to do with the heart. So if you see the word cardio, you know that that piece of literature is something to do with the heart. The next word is dermato. So that means skin. So when you see dermatology, you know that it's about the study of skin disorders or something related to the skin. Neuro and nephro get confused very easily because they're very similar. Neuro sounds more like nervous system, so you've got neurology, but nephro doesn't sound anything like the kidneys, which is where the Latin and the Greek comes in. That can be quite confusing. But nephrology is pertaining to the kidneys, so anything to do with the kidneys, whether it's good or bad, diseases, illnesses, the functioning of it, is the nephrology. Patho actually means disease. So when you say pathology, you mean the study of disease. Histo, again, nothing to do with tissue. I can only think of history, somehow making sense of it. The more you read it, the more you pick up on it. So basically, logy is again the suffix word to do with the study of. So histo means tissue, so that could be microscopic cells, that could be microscopic cells, sorry, it's a little bit hidden there, and organs, so parts of tissue samples that have been taken and looked upon in a scientific way to see if they can discover any information. Okay, so now we're going to change it slightly from logy to itis. An itis at the end of a word means inflammation. It can also mean infection. So when you look at these words again, so dermatology is changed to dermatitis, which means there's inflammation of the skin. So if someone has a skin condition like eczema or psoriasis, just a very brief example, if it says this person has dermatitis, that means they have at present inflammation of the skin or an infection in the skin. So cardio would be carditis. This is actually a very broad term and is possibly American and not used in the UK or England as much. However, the heart actually compartmentalizes into several phrases, which we will learn later. But basically, it's an extremely broad term for the inflammation of the heart. But that could be anywhere in the heart, and we will learn all the different terms a bit later. I've actually brought in some new root words now. So we've got broncho, which is referring to the lungs, and the main airways of the lungs is bronchi, which is where it comes from. I'm sure everyone's heard of tonsillitis. It's when your tonsils are inflamed, and a lot of people, when they're younger, have to have them taken out. I was one of them. And then hepato, which doesn't have any sort of correlation to liver when you look at it on the face of it. But when you say hepatitis, then people know exactly what that means. So that's the illness. So hepatitis B, hepatitis C. And it sort of rings a bell more than if you just see the word hepato. So hepatitis is basically the inflammation of the liver, but it can mean more of a disease. Okay, so this is like a little mini test to see how you do, to see if you've picked anything up, or just a little recap. It's nothing, it's just something a bit of fun. So cardiology, so I'll give you a few seconds to answer. So that means the study of the heart. I've taken the main word here and I've actually just put in the description. So the study of the skin and its disorders is dermatology. Okay, so now we've got the neurology and nephrology. So not to get those two mixed up. So neurology means the study of the nervous system, and nephrology means the study of the kidneys. Pathology means the study of disease. Now, the study of microscopic tissues or organs or samples taken for the laboratories, that is histology. Carditis, if you remember, cardio is to do with the heart. I've mentioned at the top. That is inflammation of the heart, a very broad term. Dermatitis is inflammation of the skin. So our new root words, bronchitis is the inflammation or infection of the lungs. So the main airway, the bronchi, before they split into the airway sacs, basically it's the infection of the lung bronchi. Something is wrong with the lining of the tubes. So tonsillitis is inflammation of the tonsils. And here's a little trick one at the end. The inflammation of the liver is actually hepatitis. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so well done, guys. If anyone got those right, or if you had a guess or you recognized something, well done. So let's move on to this slide. This part is now actually changing the prefix, so the first part of the word. When you put the first part of the word with a root word in the middle, you can get a lot more variation specific to an organ. Obviously, there is a lot to learn in medical terminology, but I was trying to think of the more common ones that we hear. So tachy means fast. So if you put tachy before cardio, it means fast heart rate. So sometimes when people have ECGs, that's electrocardiogram, another bit of terminology there, they say someone's got tachycardia, which means they can see that their heart rate is going a little bit fast. So that's when it has a few more up and downs on the grid paper, as opposed to like a nice even pattern. Just to note that when you put card, as in the previous slide, the card from cardio, you take away the O and you have to put on something at the end. You can't just say tachycard. It has to have either IA or IUM or another suffix. Okay, so Brady means slow. So when you put bradycardia, you're saying slow heart rate. So that's on an ECG, you'd have lots of gaps between the peaks. So epi means inside. So here, epicardium means pertaining to the inner membrane of the heart. On a different video, we'll go into how the heart works. This is a very broad terminology, even for the organ. The heart organ has so many different things attached to it. But basically, if you've seen the word cardio in a word, you know it's about the heart. And you'll also, when you do medical terminology more, you will realize when to put IA at the end and IUM. It just sounds better and you can hear it. Eventually you'll hear it. Just to say that I actually did a qualification in medical terminology, so that's how I sort of know how to research the information. I didn't just read it, I actually learnt it. So here we go. So we've got peri, which means around. So pericardium is pertaining to the membrane around the heart. Myo, that's actually a slight root word because it's used in conjunction with the muscle, which is seen as an organ. Here, saying myocardium, you're actually talking about the muscle of the heart. So the heart is made up of muscle. So that's a very broad term again, but it has lots of different membranes and different layers. And endo, not to get confused with epi, means innermost, so very, very inside, and that'd be the innermost layer of muscle tissue. Okay, so now we're just going to take a few other words and switch the suffix to inflammation. So basically, we've got pericarditis. So the peri, if you refer to the top part, is around. Card is the heart, and itis is the inflammation. So when you look at the word, reading it backwards, you've got inflammation of the heart, but it's around the heart. Now this is a trick one. When you've got 3 breakdowns in a word, you read the third part, the first part, then the second part, which gets a bit confusing. So basically, instead of saying inflammation of the heart around, you're saying there's inflammation of around the heart. So the next one, you've got myo, which is muscle, heart again, and inflammation. So you don't say inflammation of the muscle heart this time. You have to say inflammation of the heart muscle. So this word you do read completely backwards. And when you repeat this a lot and go over it a lot, you will start to realize how to describe or say something. Because if you say inflammation of the muscle heart, which you can, it doesn't sound quite right. So you know to say it slightly differently. Now, endocarditis, the first word is endo, which is innermost. Card is the heart. Then inflammation is itis. So you've got inflammation of the innermost layer of the heart chambers and valves. Okay. So nearly come to the end of the first video. I didn't want to overload with tons of information. I've just done a recap of the words, and I've actually highlighted the words, or the parts of the words that are the same in each word. And so just taking these first 20 words, which we've learned today, you can see a similarity. So you can see inflammation, you can see muscle, you can see dermat in red, which is dermatology, which is the skin. You can see logy, which is in the turquoise. And you can see a pattern here. And a lot of medical terminology words is very repetitious, and they mix and match, it's very interchangeable, which you will notice. So just to show you a recap of a lot more detail describing each word, which you can refer to. And even though it seems a little bit overwhelming and a little bit confusing, it does become easier. So if you look out for any information or TV shows or medical TV shows, forensic shows as well, or literature or information in the news, you might pick up on some words and just understand it a little bit better. Okay, as always, please like and subscribe and share my videos. I will be doing a lot more. I may be doing them in different formats so as not to be complacent. And also, it's very difficult sometimes to describe things in just a slide format. I might have to do drawings or pictures or some interactions. I will be having quizzes as well. And basically, I just want to say thank you. And this is my first video. I am very new to this, but I hope that you enjoy watching. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.